For many of us around the world, winter time is fast approaching, which means dusting off your indoor trainer to try to avoid the worst of the bad weather. So coming up are a few indoor training tips and hacks to help improve your indoor training experience. First up, choose your indoor trainer wisely. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest smart trainer, but I would recommend investing in a direct drive trainer. This is one where you remove the rear wheel from your bike and attach your bike directly onto the trainer. These are much quieter than other types of trainers, and also they replicate the feeling and fluidity that you have when you're out riding on the road. There are smart trainers which pair up and automatically adjust the resistance to third-party apps such as Zwift. But if you've already got a power meter fitted to your bike, it could be worth considering whether you really need to spend that extra cash to get a smart trainer which has an inbuilt power meter, because you could just use the power meter and the technology that's fitted to your bike, which you've already paid for, which means you could end up with some spare cash to spend on more cycling accessories to improve all sorts of other cycling aspects. Invest in the best fan you can possibly afford. When you are riding indoors, you're going to get hot, like very hot. And as a general rule, your ordinary desk fan isn't going to be powerful enough to provide adequate cooling for when you're doing virtual racing or your toughest of indoor efforts. Luckily for me, I do have access to a Wahoo headwind fan, which is quite possibly the most high-tech fan that you could come across. It can be controlled automatically via your trainer or your heart rate sensor, for example, and you can also control it remotely using your Wahoo head unit. Now, there are plenty of other options out there, such as slightly more industrial fans, for example. These tend to be more powerful and are sometimes called air movers. They're also sometimes controlled via a remote. And if you have a fan and you want to make it remote controlled, you can get different plug and adapters which allow you to do so. Or if you want to go all out, why not get a voice activated plug such as a Google Home or Amazon Alexa? That way you can control your fan purely by using your voice, although that might be a little bit tough when you're out of breath during your toughest of efforts. Talking of overheating, a mistake I quite often see people make is to have an icy cold drink to hand when they're doing hard efforts or virtual racing, for example. Now, while this might seem like a good idea, it's actually counterintuitive and will force your body to take blood away from the working muscles and direct it towards your stomach to try to warm up that icy cold drink that you have. Even though it feels and tastes nice and refreshing, it isn't doing your indoor riding performance any good. The best option, have a drink at room temperature and think about investing in some sort of energy drinks or an electrolyte mix, for example. To help combat boredom when you're riding indoors, you could try using an indoor training app or an indoor training video, for example. And if you want to head over and check out GCN Training, where we've got loads of free workout videos, then feel free to do so. But the other advantage of using an indoor training app to help combat boredom is that you have access to virtual racing, allowing you to really get stuck in and enjoy that immersive experience competing against other people from around the world. By doing these things, you'll really help keep your brain and mind occupied and take away from the fact that not only is it tough, but you're also in one static location. To help make your indoor training experience even more immersive and help make it easier to read some training numbers, for example, when following a workout, you could get your phone or laptop connected up to a large screen or a TV display. That way, you've got a far more immersive experience and it's a much more enjoyable process. And quite often, it's only a couple of pounds for a cable to connect your laptop to the TV. Bonus. An accessory I've often thought about buying but never have is a phone handlebar mount. So when you're riding indoors, it can be a bit of a pain to keep reaching across and trying to get access to your phone. You could use it to change music that you're listening to, or if you're riding on virtual platforms such as Zwift, your phone can also double up as a remote or a second screen to help you control things in the game. So having access to it on your handlebars can be really helpful. It's also helpful to be able to chat amongst your friends. It could be that you're doing a virtual group ride, or even it can be very helpful if you're doing some group racing, such as a team time trial, to help you get your pacing strategy just right. It's important to calibrate your indoor trainer correctly. Each different manufacturer will have a process to follow, but if you're planning on doing any indoor racing, for example, it's quite often written in the rules of that race series that you have to calibrate your trainer before each race. Now, like using a Wahoo kicker, for example, and lots of other similar trainers, it's important that you ride them for around 10 minutes or so to get the trainer up to their usual operating temperature. Then you should calibrate it. This is particularly important if you store your trainer in a cold garage, for example. Now, if you don't follow the process correctly to calibrate it, you do run the risk of the power reading being inaccurate, and as such, it could read slightly lower than your power you're actually doing, and then your indoor workouts will not only be incorrect, but they might be tougher than they need to be otherwise. And if you're doing virtual racing, your in-game character won't go as fast as the effort that you're putting in. And finally, an easy one to finish on is just to wipe down your bike and all of your equipment after you've finished your workouts. If you're anything like me, you'd have sweated all over your handlebars and your bike, which not only is a little bit gross in terms of hygiene, but sweat can also be incredibly corrosive if it's left there over time. So the easiest option is just to get a cloth, wipe all of the equipment over, and to help make life a little bit easier or protect your bike a bit further, there are even special equipment cleaners which are also antibacterial as well. So there you have it, some helpful tips to try and improve your indoor training experience. Hope you've found them helpful, and if you have any tips of your own, please let me know in the comments section down below. And remember, subscribe to GCN Tech and GCN Training for access to our free workout videos. Right, see you later.